Welcome back, everybody. We are here with my man, Nick Cuppy. I'm super excited to have you on, dude. Share your story. You've seen a lot of success with us really pretty quickly. So first and foremost, man, you just want to introduce yourself, what you do, all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Nick Cuppy. My company is House of Painters, Florida. I have been painting with my family and family business since I was about 6 years old, and I'm 30 now. My grandfather started a painting company with his brother in the 1970s down in Homestead near the Keys. And it's just been in family ever since. So we do interior, exterior, residential. I've done a lot of commercial work, but I try to stay away from that just because I like bringing customer, value to my customer. I like interacting and getting to communicate and work with my customers directly. So that's why I settle in the residential area, and I love it.
So cool. 6 years old.
Yeah.
What? 6 years old. So was it like you always knew like you were going to take over the company sort of thing? You always knew this was what you were going to do since you were doing it so young, or what was that like?
No, so my dad ended up, when my grandfather passed away, my dad ended up selling his business, and he went and did a truck broking job for, I don't know, 10 years or so. And I went through fire school, a couple things like that. And when it came down to it and talking with the other people, I was like, I really don't want to risk all the cancer and all the other health issues that they have.
Yeah.
And I'm making more money right now painting. And so I was already doing side jobs, pressure cleaning, painting, things like that. Me and my dad tried to work together for a little bit, and it just kind of didn't work out too well. I worked solely by myself for a year while splitting everything with him. He came out of his truck broking job because he wanted out of the office. And then after about 6 months to a year of us working side by side, it was just too much. He had one direction he wanted to go. I had another direction. And for me, I really wanted to build a sustainable operating business that didn't include me in the day-to-day.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. So that's crazy. So the painting company you guys initially had that your dad owned, that company was actually completely shut down. Your dad started working that other gig. You were in fire school and just taking jobs on the side, but like the family business wasn't necessarily active per se, if I'm hearing you right.
Right. Yeah. No, it wasn't active at that time. And then it was crazy because me and my dad kind of opened up the family business again. But then, like I said, 6 months to a year later, we actually split. He's still running his business in that company
Oh, okay.
in Sarasota area, and I'm just word of mouth all over West Central Florida.
Gotcha. Well, so I know a couple people that like split that, had to fire their dad. Similar story. Obviously, Slavic is the famous one in the industry, but I know a lot of people that actually have a very similar story. How did that go down with you and your dad? Was it mutual? Like what happened there? How did it all work?
So I guess, things were really, really tight for both of us. I was married at the time and was like trying to support my family. He was trying to support his, and it just ended up becoming a headache. Everyone else wanted to have a say in what was going on. Me and my dad were busting our asses and just stressed out. So it just got to the point where I was like, hey, listen, like, you're catching crap on your end, I'm catching crap on my end. Let's just split. I'll do my thing, you do your thing. Like, don't worry about me. And I know you got work lined up, but I set up all the Google stuff in the past that was bringing work to those jobs and different things like that. So I'm like, you're good. You've got my younger brother, and he had two other guys that were working with us at the time, paying for him. I'm like, you've got four guys. I'm tired of doing. There was a time where I felt like I was doing most of it,
For sure.
and they were helping out. But I'm like, hey, you know what? You guys can do this. It doesn't have to be just me, and I can move really quickly by myself. So I was like, let's just get efficient and start going at it.
Was he like, was he cool with that? Was he very understanding of it? Or was it kind of like, were there some hard feelings there? Was there some tough conversations?
There was definitely some tough conversations. It took a while. I think he understands it now. But at the beginning, he kind of didn't understand it. His mindset was one direction, mine was the other. And I mean, I get it. Things are hard sometimes, and we're just doing what we got to do, right? But the problem is the definition of insanity is doing the same exact things over and over again
Yep.
and expecting different results. And the results weren't changing. So I
Hmm.
had to do something different. And, you know, if what he does works for him, then I'm super happy. And, you know, I want the best for him as well. But at the same time, like, I had to do what was right for me. But it was kind of cool. Like, when I first started learning how to paint, like I said, back when I was 6 years old, I was going to summer camp one week, and then the next week I would go work with my dad during the week for like $6 an hour. So I was like
Just so crazy at
and
6 years old.
yeah, definitely. So
About
it
as
was
young as you can
so
start them.
yeah. Well, I mean, back then my grandfather was running the business. They had 3 vans, 3 crews, and we were living with my grandmother at the time, taking care of her. So, and that's where the base of their company was out of. So every single morning, all the crews showed up to our house. My grandfather came over, and then, you know, I'd hang out and watch them get set up and ready, and then they would split. So I
Yeah.
just like, hey, I want to go do it too. Like, and he's like, I could pay you some money and you can make a little money and start learning how to do this stuff. So I was like, cool. So I mean, I started out sanding baseboards, wiping them clean, sanding doors, wiping them clean, washing windows, cleaning the paintbrushes and roller skin, and you know,
That's
stuff like
awesome.
that. Yeah,
My
definitely.
my brother always makes the joke. My brother's primarily a real estate investor, but a little bit of a self-taught contractor. We sold painting projects before, and he always makes the joke. His oldest son is now 2. He always makes a joke that as soon as he can walk, we're gonna have him in there on houses. Now, obviously, he's walking. It didn't quite happen, but we'll see if he gets him started by 6. I feel like that's pretty early.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's cool for me because I feel like it's what kind of set the tone for me. You know, like some of these kids nowadays, they get handed everything, and they don't learn how to do things on their own. And with him, like he took care of everything, but I wanted to like my own stuff, little toys and things like that. And so it was just like, you know, you can make some money, you got to come to work and earn it. And so
Yep.
that's what I did.
Yeah, no, dude, I 100% agree. I mean, I think those things that happened to me were some of the best things that ever happened to me. Right. Like my parents not being able to like give me the car I wanted in high school, and like me having to work and save every single dollar I earned and figure out how to budget and all these things. And I have story after story after story like that. So I 100% agree. I think there's a lot of value in learning those things at a young age. Right. Um,
Definitely.
you said something interesting too, where you were like, we had different visions, you and your dad,
Yeah.
right? It sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, he wanted to just kind of run it off word of mouth, own a job per se, right? Have a few guys, have a crew or two. And you said you wanted to build a business that could be sustained without you. You had a bigger vision, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So like talk about that a little bit. Like, you started when you were 6 years old, right? You go through fire school, you decide, hey, this isn't for me. I don't want some of the health risks. You start painting, you and your dad start working together. You guys split, you decide you have this bigger vision. Like, what happened next? I'm assuming you didn't just like start this company and now we're here. I'm sure there was like stuff that happened, trials and tribulations. Like what happened there from there?
Definitely. So, and it's crazy because like going through fire school, like I really didn't think that I would ever be painting or get back into painting. It kind of just something that ended up falling into place. Um, my whole thing was, you're gonna laugh, but originally I wanted to be able to retire my dad,
Yeah. No, I
and
get it. I mean, that's a thing for a lot of people, be able to retire their parents. Absolutely.
you know, so I was looking to build. We got into commercial work, which was really crazy. We had 8 guys running, plus me, my dad, and brother. And I wanted to get to a point where I could replace him, maybe send him to do sales, things like that. Our numbers weren't. We were selling jobs, but they were, way underbidded.
Sure.
Um, the higher ones, he wasn't quite landing, and every now and then he did. And with our efficiency, we could make some money on these jobs. But the thing that I started to realize was that it was never going to be enough to sustain itself. It was always, it only ran and operated if we were running and we were working and we were operating.
Right.
So I was like, if we keep doing this, we're going to work every single day for the rest of my life, rest of his life. Like, that's not what I'm looking to do. That's not what I'm wanting to do, and I think that my dad had the old school concept of the painting company, and he's a fantastic painter. He's probably certain things now I'm really, really good at, but there's a lot of things that he's way better than me at.
Yeah.
When it's staining doors and doing some of that stuff, like, he's amazing. I don't even want to touch that stuff. Some of his patchwork, some of his, like, he does some texturing and stuff, and he does a great job, and it's kind of stuff that is more of a hassle for me to mess with. But it was one of those things where we had money coming in. It was just enough to take care of pay our bills. We were going to continually keep working ourselves, and we never had enough money saved up to go buy new equipment, buy new vehicles, to hire on people. When we hired on people, we'd end up paying them and us not making almost anything in the end of it. And me and him still doing all the work.
Yeah.
And just having guys as helpers. And it was just got to the point I couldn't do it no more. I mean, at the time, so my dad lived in Sarasota area, and I lived up in Dade City, which is about an hour and a half difference drive back and forth. And at one point I was driving a minimum of 5 days a week and sometimes 7 days a week back and forth every single day. So I was leaving my house at 4:30 in the morning to get down there 6:30.
A lot of driving, man.
To get ready. Yeah. And then I'd work till 6 o'clock at night and then drive another hour and a half home. So I'd get home 8:30, 9 o'clock some nights. But when I got home, I'd clean up, eat my food, and I'd hop on the computer. I'm like, looking up ways, studying finance, studying budgeting, trying to figure out what are other businesses, other companies doing to be successful? How are they managing their company? Like, what is it that they're doing that we're not doing? And I started playing with, like, I got QuickBooks involved and started doing that stuff. I tried to do my own, I built my own website, did my own Google ads, different things like that. A lot of stuff trying to do it on my own. But at the same time, I was a practitioner, but I was teaching myself how to do this stuff. So it was good and it worked on a mediocre level, but I was looking to be professional. I was looking to be above and beyond, and something that people are going to see and, like, that's what I want. That's who I want. That's, so that I could scale up, get enough work coming in, and then be able to have enough money to hire crews, different things like that. So for me, it was just like, my dad would go to work. He'd bust his ass all day long. He was older. He'd be wore out just like I was, putting in the same amount of hours minus the driving. But he'd go home and relax and get ready for bed. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, hey, I need help to grow this business. I need to build this business. And my stepmom didn't really, I don't know, she's seen her side of the things, and some of that was what went into play. And so it's like, I just got to the point I was like, I can't keep being questioned. I'm spending my whole night, I'm getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep at night because I'm studying how to grow this business. And you guys are not wanting to listen to what I'm saying. Like, you're not helping.
You don't have the same vision as me.
Yeah, exactly. So there was one day, it was super funny. We were doing home advisors, and Tanner actually built me a CRM system on Active Campaign. So we had that all set up. And that was another thing, I was paying for those different things to start happening. And they're like, you're paying for all this stuff, we're not getting paid. I'm like, well, if this stuff doesn't get paid, we're not going to make no money.
Right. We don't have any way to sustain this or get out of this rat race. Yeah,
exactly. So he called, I'm on a ladder spraying some softened fascia, and he comes up to me, Nick, you got three leads on home advisors. Have you gotten a hold of them? I said, no, I haven't. Have you? He's like, no, no. And I was like, did you happen to look at the calendar? And he goes, well, I seen that there was 3 estimates. I go, did you happen to see that those estimate names were the same exact names that were on Home Advisors? Oh, they are? I said, yeah, they are. I said, our system already did it for us, Dad. They're already scheduled in the calendar to go
It's
do those
amazing.
estimates. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, and I thought over time maybe some of those things would click, but for him and his situation, it wasn't something he wanted to spend the time to learn and to do. And it was one of those things where I didn't have a choice. For me to grow and for me to have a business that's successful for the future, I have to
Especially
start.
once you went on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, dude, and that's one of the parts I admire about you. I don't know if I ever even told you this, but when Tanner initially connected us, he reached out to me separately and he was like, dude, that's a guy I'm so excited about because he's young and he's hungry. Like he is not afraid to put in extra work and make it happen. Like, dude, you just teach him, you pour into him, and he will get it. And like just hearing that story, and obviously having worked with you for a little while now, like it's so true. And like this is something me and Slavic have talked about a handful of times. Like I think a lot of times what the painting industry, the trades, and I mean business in general, right? Any business, I think oftentimes is missing is that scrappy entrepreneur, especially in service businesses like ours, where we're often bootstrapping it to get started, right? Money between the couch cushions, all sorts of stuff just to get there. Sometimes it takes that, right? It's not sustainable forever. Obviously, you can't operate on 3 hours of sleep forever, but sometimes it
Right.
takes that grit, that
Oh,
like
I
that
think so.
that
100%.
determination, and it's so cool, man. Um, so how long have you? Because I don't even know how long have you been completely on your own without your dad since that split happened?
It's been about 3 to 4 years now. In the time frame, I've done a lot of stuff. Like I race BMX bikes. When I about 5 years ago, I was racing professionally, um, and I got out of it to work into the business and try to focus on my marriage at the time. Which I ended up getting divorced about a year and a half ago, which was the best thing ever. But so within this time frame, though, um, I was building slowly. I had the ideas. I was really, really, I was over it all at the end, towards the end of the marriage, towards the end of working with my dad. I was really over it all. I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm going to go on my own. I can make money. I'd work a job, make a few $1,000s, try to line up some more. Like it got to a point at one point where if I was focusing on getting sales and getting jobs, I would land them. But then I'd have so much work that I couldn't do anything but do that work.
Yep.
And then by the time I got to the end of that, I had no jobs left. I mean, I had money in my pocket, but then there was no jobs left. So I actually started slowing it down. I took some time away. I would do a job. I'd space my workout a couple weeks at a time, and I'd be really efficient. I was going racing bicycles. Like this year in February, from February 24th to March 29th, I went to South Africa for 6 weeks just to hang out with some other BMX guys.
It's
I did
amazing.
BMX clinics for some of the local riders, raced their national.
That's
And
amazing.
in this whole time frame too, I've done a bunch of different stuff. Like I was buying used motorcycles, clean, like taking them apart, cleaning all the parts and selling the parts individually. And like I'd make thousands of dollars doing that. So
Yep.
I was even doing t-shirts and hoodies. I would go get the uh like JPEG or vector files off of
Yep.
Google for like say nurses was a killer for me. I'd go to nurses vector files. I'd remake all those images on Photoshop, and then I would post them into nursing Facebook groups, and I would say, "Who wants what design on what? You want a sweatshirt? You want a T-shirt? What do you want?" And I was selling those things and making money. When when I was doing the motorcycles, I bought a motorcycle for $500, and I went on eBay and I typed in the make and model. I put used and I put sold. So it already told me the prices of every product that was already sold for that
Yep.
bike. So then I did
Dude,
the same thing on Facebook. I went to Facebook. I typed in the make and model, I typed in groups, and I added myself to 20 different groups that had over 10,000 members. So there were all my customers. So
Yep.
I was taking pictures,
Dude,
posting,
this
and
reminds me so much of my entrepreneurial story because it was very, very similar. And oddly enough, and a lot of people don't know this about me. A lot of people know like I'm a big car guy at heart, but I used to actually skateboard for a little while, and then I even got into like scootering. I was one of those scooter kids doing tricks on scooters. I was pretty good actually for a couple years, and then kind of stopped going into high school. But it's funny. My entrepreneurial journey was very similar, right? I would buy stuff. I did the opposite. Well, no, very similar. I would buy stuff on like OfferUp and Let Go because I'm a little younger, right? In
yeah,
college, I would buy like an old like Amazon Kindle, things like that. And then flip it on eBay, right? I had the local market where I was getting one price, and then I'd sell it for the higher national price. So it's just cool seeing similar stories and that young scrappiness getting started, finding ways to fund it. Where do you feel like things shifted for you? I know you were kind of over a lot of it and you started doing a lot of these other things. It's been, you said like 3 or 4 years now. Where do you feel like things shifted where you were like, okay, I'm going to stop focusing on this other stuff and I'm really just going to double down on the painting company and growing this thing the right way? Like, or did that shift happen? Like what was that like?
so at one point I got real big into energy, and then I started studying the mind and how the mind works. Basically, you have your conscious, your subconscious. Your conscious it's your thinking mind. It can accept, it can reject, it can originate. Your
Mm-hmm.
your subconscious is an emotional mind. It cannot accept nor reject anything. So I learned some of those things. Like, and for example, on that, if my mind, if I'm telling myself I need to get out of debt, I need to get out of debt, all my emotional mind hears is debt. And our emotional mind, our subconscious controls our body. That's why we can drive and talk, change the radio station, things like that. So what I learned was that we have thoughts. And when we consistently have these thoughts, we then build up an emotion. And once our emotion gets big enough, we'll then take an action which will yield a result.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that my results weren't due to the actions I was taking. It was due to the thoughts that I was having.
Because the thoughts created the actions, right?
Yeah, the thoughts created the emotions created the actions, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So I got to this point, and I actually started meditating. I actually built a new morning routine. I wake up in the morning and I take a cold shower
Yep.
until I breathe calmly. So sometimes it's a minute and a half, sometimes it's 3 minutes, sometimes it's 5 minutes, depending on the morning. I get out of that and I do Wim Hof breathing. I do 4 rounds of 40 breaths. And then I stretch, I read, and then I make my breakfast. And then that even got enhanced a lot. When I went to South Africa, there were so many positive people. And I was just around other entrepreneurs, people that supported what I was saying. Like for a while, I felt like, between my ex-wife, my family at the time, I was saying these things and trying to be this better person. And nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody else wanted to change. They thought that I was talking down on them because they didn't want to
We're
change,
doing
but
those
I did,
things. Yeah.
so I ended up surrounding myself around these positive, like-minded people. And when I came home from South Africa, I got a hold of Tanner again. And I started chatting with him. I'm like, I got to build this business again. I'm ready. I'm ready to do. So really, it wasn't until just a little bit before we started that I was like, you know what? I'm ready to go again.
Yeah.
Up until then, I was just like, when I came home from South Africa, I did one job that I ended up making like $15,000 on.
Woo.
I think my expenses, that was the total revenue of the job. I think my expenses ended up being about $3,000. So
Still.
yeah. So then I did some racing and stuff like that afterwards. And I'm like, you know what? I got some money. Like, let's jump back in here and let's get back on with my ads. Let's do that first. Because for my mindset, I was like, okay, I want to hire a crew. I want to build the business. What do I need first? I need a lot of sales. I need a lot of jobs.
Mhm.
once the jobs are booked, scheduled, signed contract, now I could hire on a crew, but I can't put other people's lives in jeopardy to, you know what I mean, if I haven't built a successful platform for them.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And that story is so cool. And I talk about it a lot where I talk about it in a couple ways, right? Where just getting around the right people is so important, right? Just getting in the right room is something I often say to a lot of my marketer friends. Because the marketing world is much different in the painting world in the sense that like our masterminds and coaching programs and that stuff are way more expensive, right? You go to a marketing mastermind event and it's $5,000 for a ticket, not 500. It's just much different. But like every single time you're going to get an ROI because if you go with the right intentions and everything, obviously, because
Yep.
it's about being in the right room and getting around the right people and making that one connection that teaches you one thing that helps you do something else. Right. And I love what you said about just understanding the mind and the thoughts is something you probably hear me say on the coaching calls a lot. And I say it to our internal team all the time too, where it's like, hey, like it sounds woo woo and mindset and crazy, but like your thoughts control a lot. Like what you say to yourself, either in your brain or out loud, is so important.
Yeah.
One of the things, I don't know if you know Corey Leister, big in the painting space. Like she's so good at this. She has signs all over her shop that like have a certain phrase, then crossed out in another one. So instead of like, I'm gonna like butcher the examples, but instead of like can't, like I can't is crossed out and it's like I'm trying to find a way. And it's just little things like that, like rephrasing everything. And ever since I saw those in her shop, shout out to Corey, I find myself now like correcting that with my team. It's like, no, like this isn't bad. Like we're just frustrated with this and like finding a solution, right? And rephrasing things. And it makes a world of differences. Cause just like you said, your thoughts control your emotions dictate your actions, and just huge, so powerful, so powerful.
Absolutely. And what you kind of touched on just now was a key component that a lot of people don't say. You know, what it is one, your attitude, and two is your perspective. You
Yeah.
know, when I said I got into energy, I realized there's negative energy and there's positive energy. And we have a conscious choice in every single decision, whether we want to be positive or whether we want to be negative. And for me, it was about realizing, hey, those negative thoughts go through your head, but you can now say, I don't accept that. I reject those thoughts. Those are not my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
What is the equal and opposite positive thought of that? You know, and that's what I go with. So it's being able to, one, be aware and recognize those things, and then shift your perspective and come at it with a good attitude and say, I'm going to go get this done.
And awareness is a big part of it. And I don't know for you, Nick, I know at least for me, like, even though I've studied a lot of this stuff as well and spent a lot of time and money on personal development and all those things, like I'm not perfect, right? Like I have negative thoughts all the time, but it's exactly that. It's like having this negative thought and then immediately being like, no, don't think about it this way. Think about it this way. Like, no, that's not true. Like this is how we need to think about it. And constantly redirecting myself, self-correcting myself all the time. I have to imagine you go through something very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we are all actually programmed between the ages of 1 to 5 to 8 years old. And so we all still have this little kid inside of us,
Yeah.
and that's the program that we're running off of. And I had realized at one point that I've got a lack of mindset. I'm always talking about I don't have enough for this and I don't have that and this and the other. And the reality is that everything we want and need is already out here in this earth, and we've got to align ourselves at the right frequency to go get that, and not even to go get it, but to attract it to us.
Yep.
And that's how I noticed when I started aligning myself positively in my mind. That's when the things that I really wanted started to fly at me. I wasn't chasing.
So powerful, dude. I always say change your mindset, change your life. And I think it's something we need more of in the industry. And just so many things tie back to that, how we think about it, how we go about it. So I love that, dude. So circling back, you came back, you were doing all these things. You're like, all right, let's buckle down. Let's turn on some ads. Let's, if I want to bring in crews, if I want to hire people and actually remove myself from this company, I'm going to need a buttload of sales, right? I'm really going
Yeah.
to need to grow this thing. Obviously, you started working with us. I'm not even sure you've been working with us a whole month. It's been fairly new. We're a couple months in. Just, I'm curious, what's your experience been like? Obviously, I know you're working with Tanner and Drip Jobs. Shout out to them. Starting with Pathfinder, taking a new advertising approach, right? Something you haven't done before. Like what's that been like? What's the experience been like?
It's been really cool. I get to hop in with the coaching calls with Pathfinder twice a week, and you get to hear other people's complaints, and then you get to hear other people's successes. And I started to realize, like, I've been through this stuff. I know where I'm at. I know what's going on. And the thing was the ads are awesome. The way that they, I guess, how do I put it? Like, the way that they communicate with the customer is amazing, and so for me, I'm getting ads coming in this way. What I think it is that I have been now surrounding myself with like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
I am in my mind believing, okay, this is a process. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to continue pushing for it.
Yep.
So between using drip jobs, between working with you guys with Pathfinders, I also joined a local NPI, Networking Professionals International group. So I joined those. And so now I'm 3 days a week, I'm doing NPI meetings in the morning. I started with one day, and now I'm getting invited to all the other chapters that don't already have a page. So now I'm just like bouncing around. Like I'm really realizing like I've got to hire people because my business is growing because of my networking, because I'm doing what I like to call money producing skills.
Activities. Yep.
I get that the production of the job brings the money in the end, but you can't even do the production of the job if you're not going out there and securing them.
If all you did was focus on producing jobs, you would run out and then never have any more jobs. Right.
Yes.
And there will be people out there that are rolling their eyes right now. They're like, if you just do a great job, more work will come. Yes, it will. But like there are intentional actions behind that, right? Like if all you did was produce jobs and you never followed up with those people, went and ran those estimates, were professional on site, all those other things, like you would eventually run out and have nothing, or you would never be able to build the business that sustains itself, right? Which is,
Yes.
ultimately what a lot of people are after. So I just love that you touch on that money producing activities. You don't hear enough painters talk about that. Exactly. Focusing on the thing that's actually going to move the needle, what's actually going to grow the business and let you produce more revenue, remove yourself from activities. I love that, dude.
And I'm literally a perfect example of what you just said. I was doing the jobs. I was running out of them. Word of mouth is great. I do a great job. My customers love me. They call me back eventually, right? But I'm doing a job that's supposed to last them 5 to 10 years, according to our Sherwin-Williams warranty. I then have to transfer into a second business, basically, of pressure cleaning to line these customers up more frequently. So the thing is, and I'm all about positivity, but I've noticed that if you do an amazing job, if somebody asks somebody about what you do, they'll tell you about it. They'll tell them. But if you do a bad job, they're going to tell everybody.
Usually they're going to tell more people if you did a bad job than the amount of people they would tell if you did a good job.
Yeah, exactly. So my word of mouth is great. My customers are loyal. They come back. They even mention me to other people when they happen to hear that those other people need me. But they're out there pushing my business. They're not out there looking every single day to sell my jobs for me or to recommend me to somebody every day.
Of course.
I have that, whether it's through ads, through the NPI group, whatever it is, or knocking on doors or passing out cards and different things like that to the surrounding homes around the jobs that I'm doing. So for me, like we said the money producing activities, we have to be doing those consistently. And when you do those consistently, you will have consistent work.
Yes, absolutely, dude. No, so powerful. I love it. I can't emphasize it enough. So dude, I'm curious because I'm not even sure I actually know the number. I know you've just been working with like Shannon and Vanessa directly. What, because you haven't been working with us a whole lot of time. And I know everybody always wants to know, like, how much have you closed since you started working with us? What, a few weeks ago, a month ago now?
So it's been 3 weeks that I've been with you guys, right? The first week and a half was kind of slow. I actually, the first 3 or 4 leads that came in, I haven't even done their estimate yet because they wanted to be booked out a little longer. I'm actually
Oh,
going
okay.
this week to do those estimates.
Nice.
But as of last week, within the 2.5 day time frame, I filled up. Well, I guess last week was before July, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
before.
So last week, right before July, like 2 or 3 days before July, I literally sold 5 jobs. It's like $10,500 and completely filled July. So I'm booked all July.
Amazing.
And that was just, like I said, 2.5 days worth of estimates. I've got other ones out there. I've got a few big jobs out there that I sent out some like customer appreciation emails that you guys helped me out with some
Yep.
framework
I
for.
remember. Yeah.
So I've got a lot of things that are out there now, and I'm kind of waiting on some of that to come back. I'm going to give them a call and touch base on some of those again. But for me, I really want to focus on my ideal customer. My ideal customer knows what they want, they know when they want it, and they're ready to rock and roll. And so some of the people, if I feel like they're tire kickers, then I don't really worry about it. I don't let someone else's decisions or someone else's lifestyle control what I'm doing. Um, but so, like I said, 2.5 days, I sold 10.5K worth of work.
Not a
I
bad
booked
couple
out the
days.
whole month. Yeah, not bad for a couple of days, you know. And so for me right now, since I am starting all over from scratch, I'm like, I'm building up a nest egg. I want to get to say about $15,000 set aside in my savings account. It has nothing to do with my operational fees, my monthly expenses, things like that. That way I can then, I should have August lined up over the next 2 weeks for sure. And then get into September jobs. But then I'll have a nest egg. I'll have, jobs lined up, and I'm going to start bringing on employees for the local area. And then I'm going to start trying to find some other companies to subcontract work for the areas that are further around from me. So for me,
Love
I'm
it.
knocking out all the jobs that I've landed so far by myself to put that money aside. That way I can then have that nest egg. So when I bring somebody on, no matter what happens, I can take care of things.
Which is so key. I love that you mentioned that. I see so many painters try to do this the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Where they hear, this thing in the industry that, finding good help is hard, which it can be sometimes, right? There's a lot of things we can do to make that easier, but it can be difficult. So we get this thought in our head that it's like, man, we're the owner operator and we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed. We need to hire. We need to hire. But we're a word of mouth company that's only like booked out a couple weeks. Like we're just doing all the work and we feel overwhelmed and stressed. So we feel like we need somebody. It's like, hey, what happens? That lead time shrinks when you bring on somebody else. And like, this is a person you're talking about. This is their livelihood, right? You need to make sure you can exactly be a little bit booked out, have a little bit of a cushion room, and or like have a reliable way to continue to get projects. Yes. Right? Especially if you're bringing guys in-house W2. Like, yes, it's so well said. I love that. And I also like that you mentioned like, hey, the first couple of weeks, like a few of the leads I got and the estimates I scheduled, like they maybe weren't quite as ready. They wanted their estimate in a few weeks. They wanted their estimate in a month. I booked their appointment out and then followed up with them, right? Like that is the very real reality, is like no marketing is an overnight process. And, marketing will give you some consistency. Yes. But I always say where true consistency comes from is from pipeline management. Right. Yes. You get the marketing, but then the pipeline management of following up on deals, scheduling things out, etc., knowing where you can fill in gaps, constantly having that follow up and that pipeline coming in. That's where true consistency comes from. and shout out to you for trusting the process, sticking with it. Not even that was that long of a time. A lot of people have to stick it through way longer, but just knowing how this works and continuing to go through it, I think it's key, and why you're seeing success so quickly. It's really fun to see. So it's absolutely amazing, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time, dude. I'm curious. You've been in the painting industry for now what, like 26 years? You started when you were 6 years old, right? You've worked in your dad's company. You've done jobs on the side. You started a company with your dad. Now you're starting on your own. You've gotten connected with people like me and Tanner and others in the industry. I'm super curious, like, for that average painter out there that's maybe looking to grow their company, right? Grow a company that's actually going to self-sustain itself, right? And they're trying to get to that point. Like, what's some of the advice you would give them from the journey you've been on so far?
For me, it's that failure only comes when you accept it as true, when you give up.
Mm,
Push and keep grinding. The fact is you need to build a plan and you need to execute on that plan and trust the process. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, but remaining humble, knowing that, hey, we are human, we're not perfect. And one of the other big things is that no matter how much we think we can do it by ourselves, we need other people to help us grow. Because when it
yes.
really comes down to it, those other people, sometimes they're our business partners, sometimes they're our customers. Without those customers, we don't make no money at all. So it's some of those things. And probably I think one of the most important things is to treat other people the way you would like to be treated.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, dude. So key. So many of those things. Just, it sounds basic probably to a lot of people, but often it's the boring stuff that gets the job done, right? One of my favorite little quotes, something I say often to our team, is like, we got to do the boring work too, right? We got to do
Yep.
stuff that's boring, that maybe isn't as sexy, but gets the job done and gets us where we need to be. And sometimes that's the hard part. Sometimes that's the grinding it out, right? So that's
Definitely.
awesome.
And I think one of the things is find something about it that you're passionate about. Because if you're not passionate in what you're doing, when these hard times come, you're going to stop and you're not going to be willing to do what it takes to get through those hardships. You're not going to keep fighting when you get knocked down, so it's figure out like what it is that you enjoy about it and be passionate about that. Like for me, I love bringing in a customer, helping them out, and taking their home from a dud to a stud. I like when the house looks like crap and it needs a lot of work. And when I'm done, they're like, it's beautiful. It's a new house. So for me, I get that intrinsic value helping my customers and being that person that brings them from a negative mindset about their living space to a positive mindset. So it's something like that that keeps me passionate. It keeps me going, you know what, this has been hard. I've had a lot of setbacks. I'm not where I expected to be or thought I should be already.
Sure.
Why? And going after it. Now I know why and working on it and
Continuing
continue.
to improve.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I love that, dude. One of the things I always talk about is like process over outcome, right? And I just heard something the other day. I'm probably gonna butcher it a little bit, but it just said this so perfectly. It was like, the person that loves running is going to go a lot farther in their career than the person that loves like checking off marathons off their list, right?
Yeah.
Because it's process over outcome. Just like you said, if you find something in that process to be passionate about the journey, right? Then when push comes to shove, when things get harder, it's not just this thing you're trying to accomplish, but there's a reason behind it, right? If you fall in love with the process, often the process will be good to you, which is a quote I like to live by a lot of times. So I love it, dude. Well,
Definitely for
dude,
sure. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, man. You shared a lot of wisdom, a lot of really powerful stuff. I appreciate you coming on, dude. Do you got anything else for us?
The last one thing that kind of bounces off of what I just said that I really think is important is finding the happiness in it, because money comes and goes. time is irreplaceable. Once we spend it, we'll never get it back. So being happy with what you're doing, like you said, trusting the process. Success is literally one moment in time, and when that high of your success wears off, you got to love that process. You got to be happy in the process. And if you truly are happy and love that process, you're going to continue to have success throughout time.
Exactly. Well said, my man. Well said. Well, cool, dude. I appreciate you coming on. I'll see you here soon.
Awesome. See you later.
Cool.
See you guys.
Boom.
Me, the most influential person that I have met in all this process was my girlfriend. We started talking while I was in South Africa, and when I came back, we started dating, and from day one, it's just clicked. Things have been amazing. She supports my business. She has her own business that she started. She's been doing for about 1.5 years, doing reserve studies. So, I mean, she's just all into the energy like I am. She's all about being positive. She's an entrepreneur, and she really supports and pushes me to be my best me. And so, you know, having somebody like that in your corner is just amazing, because it's like anything I need to talk about, business, anything, like we just chat and bounce ideas off of each other and just enjoy each other's company, and things have really looked up for me since being with her. So I can't thank her enough. She's a huge influential person in my life right now that has helped me be the change that I've been wanting to be.